Welcome back, guys, to the podcast. Man, I can't believe it's been 53 episodes. Just had our 52nd for 1 year a couple of weeks ago. And man, it's been crazy. We really appreciate you guys joining us and love having you along for the ride. So, um, we've been talking a lot about our interactions with our team. It's one of the things that we actually talk a lot about since we're, focused on leadership podcast. So, um, if you're just joining us, I would really recommend going back, maybe listen to a few of the previous podcasts that talk about some of those interactions because we're kind of transitioning now. We're gonna move away talking about interactions and more. Let's talk about what does it look like to build your team? What does it look like to develop the team that you have?
Yeah, developing a team is first off an area I'm super passionate about. I love this idea of develop the team you want instead of hope for the team you could have.
Mm,
Because as
yeah,
leaders, we are not always given a winning hand. In fact, it's rare. Like, think about playing poker or some other game. How often is it that you pull, you get dealt a hand, you look at it, and it's like, oh, cool, royal flush. Great.
right.
Again. That's annoying. I
Yes.
keep getting these. No, it's rare. And in fact, that's why we tend to lose those hands or never get far in those hands, is because we don't even know what to do when we get those hands. We get so excited and we're like,
Right.
no poker face at all. And then we're
Yes.
like, I don't really have anything. And then I guess all in. And people are like, nah, man. So,
Everybody
like,
knows it's not
it's
true.
because we don't know what to do when we finally do have that, but we are always expecting to have that, which
Mm,
I think is maybe a problem here because we don't always get that winning hand. Like, leaders have to be ones to motivate, to develop, and grow their teams. And yeah, I'm getting away from the cards now, but we have to be the ones who have a mindset that says, actually, I can win even without that best hand. We can win as a team by developing the things we need to get
mm.
there. It reminds me of there's this story, I think it's in Extreme Ownership um, by Jocko. It's super good. But I want to say, and I'm going to butcher this story hard, and I apologize right now, but you'll still get the idea. There was during this boot camp, there was a bunch of crews, some like I don't know, 15 to 20 crews, and consistently the top crew was the top crew over and over and over, and the bottom crews
Makes sense.
were the bottom crews over and over and over. And so what ended up happening was the whoever was in charge took the top cruise leader and the bottom cruise leader and flipped them. Okay.
Mm,
So once that happened, once those two leaders were flipped, all of a sudden that top crew wasn't the top crew anymore. Now they didn't like plummet all the way. You've got a good hand at that point. Potentially, you've got people who have been developed in such a good way by a good leader that everything didn't collapse down to the very bottom. But what ended up happening was that bottom crew got developed in such a way that they actually became, after a few heats of these obstacle courses and stuff, they actually became the team getting to that point.
oh
So,
wow, that's crazy.
like, they ended up being the winners of it. And our mindsets as leaders are and about our teams are what put us in winning positions.
So that's interesting because having heard this story a couple times, my first inclination each time you tell it is that that they'll just kind of level out and even out and become mediocre together. Like the top team's going to come down to the middle, the bottom team's going to come up to the middle, and they're just going to kind of sit there in that mediocre level because the teams are, they're okay, either one of them, but the leader is what makes it. But it's even more than that, right? So it's even more of a drastic change based on the leader's mindset. I just think that's really super interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and our mindsets have to be about developing those teams, because when we think it's not our responsibility, like whatever people like, and think about this is being a leader on any team, not just like the top leader. This is for, hey, I'm running a project and I'm the lead on a project. Hey, I've got a couple people below me in my department. This is any of that. If your mindset is always in a place that that's not your responsibility to develop that team, then you're missing it hard. Okay. Like that's a poor leader right there who thinks that their success is completely dependent on the team they have, in the sense that if they don't already have the skills, the motivations, the mindsets, then it's not my problem. Good leaders know that the greatness is in their team, and it's in seeing their team in the right perspective or capacity, right? And you're going to get a lot out of a team when you have a mindset that focuses on developing them and not just, well, leader our my leadership should have already done their job by vetting these people and they should already be
Yeah.
perfect.
Bringing the
This
right
reminds me,
talent.
yeah, this reminds me of that story. Um, the Rosenthal's development of acquisition tests that he did back
Mm.
many moons ago. It was the Harvard, yeah, that's what it was, the
To
Harvard
say I
acquisition
Yeah.
test. And so what it was these this guy went to a bunch of schools and he gave this test out and he would
That's right.
say he would test like everyone in the class and would say, "Hey, Johnny, Sally, and Sue all scored top of their class." And they would tell the teacher, "Hey, at the end of the year, we want to come back and test Johnny, Sally, and Sue. We're going to test everyone, but we want to see that Johnny, Sally, and Sue are still top of their class. We just, this is really about the whole test, they said, was about forecasting their success in life." And
Right.
so when they came back and did the test, they saw that Johnny, Sally, and Sue were top of the class, which doesn't seem crazy until you realize that Johnny, Sally, and Sue being top of their class on the first test was actually a farce. That wasn't
Mhm.
true. They just
That's
picked
right.
three random people because they wanted to see if what a teacher's expectations and perspectives and motivations toward those students, if it changed any of their outcomes. And it did.
Right.
It absolutely did, because the second part, Johnny, Sally, and Sue were the top of their class. It's because their focus, the idea of developing them was much heavier there. And this is where this whole idea of a farm league comes from. And a farm league is this Major League Baseball mentality. Okay, farm league is just a system that sits underneath Major League Baseball that is a system for developing talent, character, and mindset. Okay, so it's all focused on developing people to go into their system. So a lot of people would call that a feeder system.
Mm.
um, and so it's an interesting concept, but it's so interesting to me that we in business, we looking at our job, like, so you anybody thinking about this, you have a job, if you think that that all that matters is like that this isn't really a game, this isn't an organization, like it's just an organization, it's not a game that we're
Yeah.
playing, then we're gonna miss it. You're gonna miss that we have to be developing the people to be on our team at every level. So, and this, so I kind of want to talk about the history of the farm league because I thought this was interesting.
It's super
So
fascinating.
Branch Rickey, which was the guy who was known who brought Jackie Robinson to the Dodgers. Okay, Branch Rickey really changed the course of baseball with the farm league. Back in the 20s and 30s, his team, I think it was St. Louis Cardinals, even at the time,
Mm.
um, were not good. They were not successful. They weren't winning, and the system at bringing people into the league was really focused that there were these minor league teams, and those minor league teams would just sell people to the majors, which sounds like, hey, that should work
Yeah.
really well.
Right.
However, it wasn't. Um, there wasn't a ton of success there. And so Branch Rickey, what he ended up doing was he went out and said, let's acquire an entire team and just develop through our team. And so they started doing that in the 20s and 30s, and all of a sudden they became a crazy success. They won in
Mm.
1926, won the World Series, and for the next 21 seasons, captured like 9 National League pennants, 6 World Series. So this worked, and just like Major League Baseball is like a copycat's like best friend,
Mhm.
everyone picked up on this idea
Yeah.
because they saw, oh my goodness, if I develop my team and have a funnel for developing my team, and our mindsets are focused on developing our team, we're going to come out with something that's a lot better.
Yeah.
People don't like doing this. Like, business owners don't like doing this. Leaders out in the field don't like doing this. And they think it's risky. If I take my time and focus on that, I'm going to lose. Okay, like we're not this is the difference between trying not to lose and trying to win. Okay?
Mm,
People who have an abundance mindset are eager to win. People who are trying not to lose are going to be mediocre. Okay, this is risky, 100%. But it's risky, yes, to develop people, but it's also risky to go out and just get great talent. Okay?
mhm,
You don't know if it's going to mesh. You don't know if it's your
right.
system. You don't know if they do things the way you do things. And not that that's always the most important, but making sure you have a team that works cohesively together is. So, yes, it's risky, but I kind of think it's a lot more risky not to have this development system in place and not to have your team's mindset be focused on developing. I think it was builtin.com said that 94% of team members said that they would stay longer somewhere if the organization invested in their professional development. And that's a
It's
huge,
insane.
and
Yeah.
we're not just talking about professional development here, but we're talking about the fact that development is key and of desire for people. So we have to be focused on development. Have to be.
I think another reason we don't do it, honestly, as business leaders in the business world, is it's hard,
Mm.
right? It's hard. It's not an easy thing to develop your team. It takes work. It takes effort. And I think there's a misconception that, and you kind of alluded to this with your how long the team members would stay if they were developed. But the misconception that we've, and even you and I have talked about this, is, well, if I develop them, they're going to go somewhere else. They're going to go work somewhere else, right? Well, you're going to put in the work one way or the other, right?
Mm-hmm.
Either you put in the work of developing them now and they become an A player for your team, or you're going to put in the work of continuing to hire new people or doing the work yourself and never getting past that point of just staying afloat and not losing. That was really that really hit me when you said it's either you're winning or you're not losing, right? And what's your focus? Is, are we focused on winning or are we focused on not losing?
Yeah.
Focus on not losing means we're not putting in the work into developing our people. We're putting in the work on the back end of, well, I've got to do the work myself, or I've got to hire a billion people because people just keep leaving. And I just thought
Yeah.
that was a another aspect of why leaders tend to stay away from developing people.
Yeah. And when you think about these major league baseball sports systems that have these feeder systems, it's real easy for us to look at those as like, oh, that's recreation. That's
Mm,
they're just doing things to become better as a good sports team. They are a multi-billion-dollar system. You don't
yeah.
think that this isn't business mindset? You don't think this is leadership mindset? It most certainly is. They're doing probably 200x what you guys are doing as a
Yes.
team, or even your company is doing. They're probably doing more, and they're concerned about developing their next team because they're always concerned about having a strategy for growth. And will I have the right people? Not do I have the right people now? That's scarcity
Mm,
mindset. It's will I have the right people when I need the right people? Will we
yeah.
have the people to scale to that next system? If it's only about input and, well, we'll hire at a certain point and we'll just have all the right people. Are you kidding me? Good luck there. But if you're developing your team, if you're focused on building all these people, and not just a will they be here for the job I'm on or the project we're on, but years down the road is the hope. Will they be here for that as a leader, as a team lead, a project manager? Will they be
Mm.
there for that? You're not going to go very far. You're gonna have a lot of more issues here.
Yeah, it's I think it's easy to especially for leaders, as we and we've kind of talked about, like, there's a lot of visuals hitting us of what does leadership look like, or what does a great team look like, or how does success look like, all these things are hitting us, and it's easy for us to think, well, so and so went and they got this crazy job, or they've got this amazing team and they just kind of either lucked into it, or maybe God's given them some incredible talent that nobody else has. But the reality is there's a whole section of time that we're not seeing, right? Between when they entered the game, and we'll call it the game, to when they're at where they're at today, right? There's not just this sudden click. Yeah, there's people out there with insane talent. And if you look at Major League Baseball, I don't know a ton about it, but as I was researching some for this, they even talked about a couple instances where they had people who went through their development super fast because of their incredible talent. But even they said that's rare. That's not the normal. The normal is they follow this regimented path and they can almost predict when people are moving up, right? Um, Mike Rosenbaum wrote an article about this, and he said having promising players is certainly a good start, right? Having that talent at the beginning is a great start, but it doesn't tell the whole story of how a player goes from lower level prospect to a successful big leaguer.
Mm,
He says, rather, it's what happens between those points that
mm,
determines a player's career path and eventual impact at the highest level.
mm,
And what he's pulling out is the crucial piece here is that we talk about the messy middle, right? We talk about enjoying the journey. He's talking about that journey. He's talking about that's the area, the development process, the development plan, the growth, whatever you want to call it. That's the area that determines where a player is going to go. And that's all based on the coach, the leader of the team, the development plan that's put in place. All those things are put together to bring those players up to that next level. It's not just a, hey, this person has incredible talent and all of a sudden they become a star. Sometimes that happens, but that's a lot more rare than I think we would like to think.
yeah, a coach's main focus and main job is not just only facilitating the technical greatness of
Yeah.
people, right? It's helping them get over the hurdles. It's
Mm,
helping them work through those types of things. Your success as a leader is not determined by having the best team. It's just
yeah.
not. It's determined by being able to develop the right team to overcome the inevitable challenges that we're going to face. It's by having that abundance mindset and building a farm league in an abundant mindset. Like that everyone on that team has that abundant mindset. Having a good team or bad team is scarcity mindset. That's not abundance mindset. That is scarce. I have a good team. I have a bad team.
Mm,
Therefore,
yeah.
how we're going to operate is completely dependent on that. You're always sizing up your team and determining that you will win or lose by that team in that way, then your head is just not in the right place. You've
Yeah.
got to get it to an abundant place and be so much more focused on winning instead of just not losing. Okay.
Yeah. Man, I
So
like that.
Pete, um, what do we do from here? Like, this is farm league. This is the
Yeah.
mindset. How do we develop the right farm league that pushes in
Yeah.
and maybe not in all its technicalities, but like what are the high level things that we should do here?
Yeah, sure. So, first thing that comes to my mind, honestly, is you got to know your people in your team. You have to. In order to be able to develop them, you need to know what needs to be developed. You also need to know what their strong suits are.
Yeah.
What are their strengths? Um, in this article I read earlier, they're talking about the different types of players, and then how those players match or mesh in with the team.
Mm,
It's a big deal, right?
yeah.
But you can't know that. You can't know what their path needs to look like until you know your people. For me,
Right.
I think that's your first step.
Yeah. And to that, I think that there's also this idea that not everyone's going to be on the team. They might be a great mesh
Mhm.
with the rest of your team, but there is a level of talent and do you have the technical ability to do
True.
anything here? So it can't just be like it's not like the Yankees are like, "Hey, we just found this great guy. He's excellent chess champion of the world. Um,
Yes.
he could lose a little bit of weight, eats ton of Doritos even during his matches. They're obviously looking for a certain thing that's going to be a
Yeah.
fit. So it's not
Yeah.
just like a cultural fit. It is like you fit whatever it is on your team. And sometimes it's easy to say, man, you don't fit that part. And that's
Yeah.
okay, but it's not going to be a good fit here. So I do think that there is a looking for that technical side. But yeah, I think you got to look at the character too. Who are they? on the field, off the field?
Yeah.
Who are
Oh yeah.
they at work, outside of work? And not that you're trying to be some creeper who's trying to figure all these things out, but it's also just about getting to know your team maybe at more of a level that, hey, we can talk, we can be here, because you do, in order to develop, there has to be a level of trust. If there's
Yes.
not trust, nobody's going to grow in those things. So if you can't build that trust and have a good understanding of where they are on the field and off the field, then you're going to have a hell of a time of trying to figure out how you're going to grow this person.
I think it's easy as leaders, especially if we have the mindset of, well, I'm bringing people on my team and I'm just going to allow them to use their natural talent. And that's how the team is going to be successful, right? If we have that mindset, it's easy for us to almost hold them at an arm's length. Because
Mm,
what's the point of getting to know them and building that trust and building that relationship if in 3 months they're going to be gone anyway? Right.
mm,
And that's I really like your perspective on that, developing that relationship so that you can build that trust. Because without built trust and without mutual trust, you're not going to have that ability to push them to that next level. You're not going to know what their strengths are to be able to develop. And we kind of we'll dig into this here in a second, but to build out a plan, right?
mm.
What's the plan for their growth? What does that look like? Having that in place is going to be crucial, but you've got to know them. You've got to know their strengths. You got to know their weaknesses to be able to do that.
Absolutely. I think you've also got to push past this fear that they don't want to be developed.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I'm not saying that that means everyone wants to be developed, because I don't know that that's true. I think some people are complacently happy where they are. I think, and not just even, I don't want to say complacent in a bad word there, because I don't think that's fair. But I think some people are happy in what they're doing. Um, but they're also maybe not the ones who are trying to go and win championships. And so you kind of
Yeah.
have to wade through some of that stuff there. But I think you got to push past that fear, that in the belief that they don't want to be developed, because
Yeah.
Ralph Waldo Emerson once said that our chief want is someone who will make us do what we can. We
Yeah.
want that. We want that development in our life. And by leaning into the fear of like, hey, I'm going to develop, we're going to work together to help you grow to this next level. Like if you think
Mm.
someone that you has joined your team is just going to be like, screw that, that's gonna be few. That's not going to be the norm. So I just push past that fear, it'll be okay.
Mm. Yeah. I think that's man. I love that quote. Um, I think another high level piece here is setting the expectations, right? So you've learned your people, you know your people. Now you need to set the expectations for their responsibility, their role, that type of thing, and what the expectations for growth, right? If we're talking about growing and developing other people on your team here, what are your expectations for them to grow to? Where do you see them going? And have you communicated that with them, right? Every person is different. So each member of your team is going to need probably a different, slightly adjusted, tweaked plan for where they're going to go. They also have different strong suits. I'm thinking of my operations team right now. I have an absolute A player operations team. They're incredible. But if I switch seats on them, they wouldn't operate incredibly.
Mm,
They would not. They're in their right seats right now. Their abilities are matched well to that, and their plans, their growth plans, follow that, right? And I'm not tooting my own horn here. This is not me saying I've got this figured out. This is just something that we've learned over time of, hey, each of those timelines are going to be different for the time, but also they're going to be different for the plan of what they need to grow in, right? And then as those things come about, right, as you follow along that path with that person, as you're developing them, realize that there's going to be adjustments. Um, I can think of one person on our team that we made adjustments probably 3 times, and we've talked about this person before. They are an A player, absolute A player, incredible person, but we had to make adjustments as we found, okay, this is not the right fit. Maybe this is not the right fit. And we saw their talents and their abilities also develop and grow. We started realizing and clarifying, okay, this is the right place for this person. And being okay with that adjustment. And I'm not saying a big change, they weren't massive changes, they were just small adjustments. Maybe we adjusted it, tweaked it here or there, or changed the way that they're going, the trajectory they're headed. Being okay with that helps keep you from feeling like you're failing as a leader, right? It's easy to feel like you failed if the person that you're developing all of a sudden hits the end of their, what we'll say, ability on that role. maybe that's because that's not the best role for them. Maybe the best role for them is somewhere else, and you need to make an adjustment to get them to that point.
Yeah. Expectations. Just hands down expectations. If you're talking about a timeline, here becomes the problem a lot of times is that we say, well, develop a timeline, and we don't know what to do with that. A
That's true.
timeline is here's start date, here's end date. Here is, and it doesn't have to be perfect. You can move that if you need to, as you see, like, hey, this isn't realistic. That's fine. But you got to have a start date, you got to have an end date, and you got to have the expectations in between,
Yeah.
such as, hey, I'm expecting by your third week that you can come up with this type of material request, this type of expense report. If you can't do that, we're going to have some problems.
Right.
I'm expecting at by this point, you can put in X amount of plumbing pipe. If you can't do that, we're going to have to talk. Those are clear expectations. A lot of times we have these like cerebral timelines and like, oh, well, they should be roughly here by this point. And when we don't see it, then we're like, hey, you need to get better. And we use really ambiguous terms there that
Yeah.
don't help
Yep.
because we haven't given clear expectations. So I think it's so helpful if you're wanting to build your farm league and you're wanting to develop within like this to draw out all the things that they need to do. What are the significant milestones for their growth?
Hmm.
Write all that out. Draw it on a timeline. I don't care, like, get a Sharpie marker and go right to your wall and
Yes.
just start making that whole timeline. But when you do, then you get to see what ecological growth looks like. Now
Yes.
you're not looking at incremental, did they hit it? Did they not? You're seeing this like ecological growth that in order for them to get to this point, they have to develop the stuff in this region. So make sure they hit this region correctly. And here's the timeline for that, but we got to be developing all areas. The farm league that they talked about or that we talked about in the beginning, that it was created to develop talent, to character, and mindset. All three of those areas have got to get developed in this.
Yeah.
That's why for me, like even in my leadership growth, I don't start that once they've been a good technician for a while. I'm ready to start that immediately because that type of mindset you want to foster as quick as possible, that they're in the right headspace, that they're in the right mindset. Are they able to go and start leading a job? Heck no, because they haven't developed the talent. They haven't developed the character potentially. Just because they have the mindset to do it doesn't mean they have all the right tools to do it. But if you're not developing those things like in the right growth path, then they're going to be a great technician. They might have great character, but when they get to a place of leadership, they're not going to scale that because they've already spent so much effort in their development towards those other things. You didn't allow them to ecologically grow in a
Mhm.
mindset. So making sure you can do that is going to be so important. And that's why having that blueprint ready, um, drawn out what it looks like for someone to go through that, it's going to be crucial to you. You cannot have expectations here and not have expectations in their
Yeah.
hands. Otherwise, they're going to fall flat and not know they're falling flat. Um, I think another thing that's important that we need to do in this idea of building a farm league, and this is one that is harder for people to do, but I think once you think about it and you're like, oh, I can kind of do this, is stop looking for your team in the same places. Unless it is like a killer system, it's going to dry up. If you're
Yes.
always fishing every day in the same water hole, the fish are going to be gone. Okay, unless obviously catch and release, sorry. But
Right.
let's say that's not the case. You're going to outfish that hole. So, how do you get to a point you're going to be able to continue fishing? You've got to go to other places. You got to look
Yeah.
for it elsewhere. And this may not be so much for um, teams in the field and just leaderships over a few people. If you're not involved in that part of the growth, but it can be. You could be looking for other
Yeah.
ways to make your team better. But I'm thinking like look for them everywhere. Start looking for the right character of a person because if you can develop the talent and you can develop the mindset, man, that's great. Maybe look, where would I find someone who has a character like this? And then start
Mm.
looking in those places for those team members. Um, if you're if you're a plumber, don't just look at other plumbing companies to find your team, because if they're just so easily willing to jump from team to team, guess what? You're just part of their story where they're going to jump to your team and then jump to another pretty quick. So try to look past that. Get past your stereotypes. Don't be afraid to get young talent. And
Mm,
we joke all the time. We have a young team at Ridgeline. We
yes, we
really
do.
do. And I'm okay with it because young talent, guess this is the crazy thing right here. This is crazy thing about age is that people get older. What?
It's true.
Oh my gosh, that was insane. If you didn't your mind didn't just like, man, that was wisdom. You're welcome, everyone. You're welcome. No, people get older. Be a part of their development. They're going to find a sense of loyalty, and not manipulative loyalty, but they see that you care at a young age. They're going to stick around at an older age, okay? Not just because of the dollar, but because they're being developed, because they see that you are caring. So, as hard as it is, and I know there's so many mindsets out there that are like, these effing kids, and I'm not trying to, I don't know why I did that voice. Don't know why I
That's
ever do
great.
voices. It's not a smart idea.
Every time.
But if you can get past that and see that I can be a part of the development and it's our responsibility to develop people in our farm league, you will go so much further than you will by having this closed mindset.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I love that. And we do I love our team. They're younger, but man, are they hungry? And that's I think something with youth too. Being able to look at youth, there is a hunger for growth and learning that as we get older, in our arrogance, we start losing some of that. And it's good to see us not lose that and be able to bring on those young people. Um,
I
you
love that
you
you
kind of
just said youth. That's so
I
funny.
know, I
Those
know. I feel
youths.
I know
Those youths.
when you said people get old, I was like, "Oh man, I feel old today."
What is that? These youths. Those
These
youths
youth
are on again.
I know. Such an old man, guys. It's crazy. I need to start thinking like a younger. I can't even say it.
Like a
Okay.
youth.
I'm just like a youth. I'm just moving on. I'm moving on from this because it's just getting worse. You said this earlier, Blake. Development starts the moment they join the team, right? Not when they show promise. The moment they join that team,
That's right.
right? And I think it's you hit it, on the head. Our chief want in life is somebody who will make us do what we can. We're not always going to say that out loud, right? We're not going to be always be the one, and not everybody's going to be the one who walks into a room, sits down in for an interview, and says, "I am just so damn hungry to learn." Right? You're going to have those people. You're going to have some people who come in, they want to learn, but they are terrified of saying it. Why? Not sure. There's a myriad of different reasons. We all have said that at different points. Maybe we're going to feel stupid. We don't want to look stupid, right? But start that development the moment they join the team, right? This one is huge. Look for and develop those who are overcoming transitional growth steps,
Mm,
right? So I'm going to break that down a little bit, but um, look for people who are good with struggling. And that sounds terrible. It really does.
mhm.
But
I love it.
I I believe that life is one struggle builds you for the next struggle, right? And you're not going to come to a point where you say, okay, I'm finally done with the struggles. That's never going to happen, guys. We're going to always struggle. So we're looking for people with mindsets to join our team that see that as an opportunity to grow. Okay, I'm going to overcome this struggle. I'm going to overcome this next step. And sometimes transitioning from one growth step to another is a hell of a struggle. Moving from, yeah, specifically in our company, in our organization, moving from a technician to a foreman, it may sound simple, but it's not. It's a complete change and shift in mindset. It's not just, you're not just a super technician, right? You're just not just good at all the things a technician can do to the 10th power, right? You are changing your mindset. This is something that Bobby Scales, he's a director of player development for the Los Angeles Angels. He said, when a guy graduates levels, you kind of look for, because they are usually the player who can work through struggles. And if a guy has a tendency to do that early in his career, he's likely going to do it later on as well. He's
Mm,
established that ability
that's
and that
good.
habit of overcoming that struggle. Look for those people those are the people that when you develop them, when you push them, they're going to push themselves to overcome that struggle to get to the next organizational or development level.
Yeah. So good. Yeah, I think at this point you've heard us say this over and over and over, but this is a leadership podcast. This is about focusing on how do I become a better leader. And remember, your success at a leader is not determined by the team you have.
Mm,
Okay? It's not determined by what your current circumstance is. It's determined by being able to build and develop the right team to do the right things when you need it done. Okay.
mm,
The team that can experience those inevitable challenges and overcome those inevitable challenges. It's by you as the leader having an abundant mindset and helping your team live in an abundant mindset and not seeing all their circumstances as the actual result of what they're going to do, but just seeing circumstances as neutral. And
mm,
you, as the leader, helping your team walk in a way that you say, you know what, that is the circumstance, but whatever, we're going to be the team that continues to excel. We're going to be the team with the right talent, the right character, and the right mindsets to overcome this stuff. And when we do, ooh, buddy, watch out. We are going to do amazing things.
yeah.
So, your success as a leader has nothing to do with the team you have, has everything to do about the mindset of building the team you want long term. Thanks so much for joining us this week on the Ridgeline Leadership Podcast. We'll see you next week.
If you guys want to reach out to us and talk to us, ask us questions, we would love to do a question and answer sometime or a question and response. We do have an email. It is rlp@ridgelinei.com. We'll put that link or that email in the description below. Reach out to us. Let us know what your thoughts are.